Welcome back, Hidden Horsepower. We are coming to you live from the PRI Trade Show 2022 Total Seal booth. We have got Lake Speed back, and we have a legend in the world of carburetors, Gary Williams, and he has already got me primed for some of the cool stories that we are going to hear. Gary, welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So you've been in the carburetor business for a while.
50 years.
50 years of carburetors.
Yep.
I got to hear the beginning though. Like, how did you get into that field? You just like taking things apart?
Yeah, Scooter, one of the owners of Racing Head Service, he did Bob Glidden's machine work and done some dyno stuff for him. You know it? Yeah.
Okay.
We had done some carburetors for a boat deal. Scooter had up there, and he was doing. Well, Glidden was supposed to send some carburetors. Forgive me, Glidden. His carburetor was terrible. I mean, how he went fast as he did, I never know. They were raggedy, they were dirty, they were just hard to drive, all the bad stuff, but he flew with them. And anyway, he was supposed to bring his carburetors, he didn't. Scooter took a pair of carburetors on his motor and made 17 horsepower, more than he'd ever seen. Well, Glidden was smart enough to know what you see on the dyno is not always what you see on the racetrack.
Yeah.
And as soon as Glidden seen him, he said, "I want them carburetors." Well, Scooter said, "Well, I don't know. These belong to this guy." He said, "No, I'm taking them home with me." He took them home with him. And so that's where it started. And most likely, if it wasn't for Bob Glidden, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all today, because he put me on the map.
Wow.
And then there was
That's a pretty good one to
pretty
hold.
good,
Yeah,
pretty
exactly, yeah.
Then there was a guy named John Callis.
Yeah.
You know John Callis, one of the smartest guys I've ever been around.
All right, so right now you're 3 for 3 in legends in the industry. It's like, I was hanging out with Scooter, then I got to go with Gladden, then I'm working with John Callis. I'm like, okay, royalty here.
But
keep on going.
John has been walking around, by the way.
Oh, is he?
I've seen him a couple times, yeah.
Well, anyway, I went with some guys to a truck race. And John, let me go back to John. If you got a nickel, a dime, a fender, a hood, or $1 million from Pontiac, John was the guy.
Yes.
And you didn't get it if he didn't want you to, and you got it if he wants you to.
Yeah.
So I went. These guys hired me to go to this truck race. We got there and they laughed at some. But I didn't know John from nobody. He's standing around. He ain't introduced himself. I don't know. But I looked at the spark plugs and I told them guys, I said, "Y'all got a loose valve over here, and you got a tight valve here, but you're running all of them out of whack. You need to tighten all the valves up." Of course, that got John's interest, because first of all, he thought he had an idiot there. So they went back. Sure enough, that valve was loose. This valve was tight. They tightened them all down. Their truck went out and made a lap fast as ever run. So that got John's attention, and he said, "Oh, I need you to do some stuff for me. What do you do?" I said, "We build carburetors." So that was that. From then on, we done stuff for John. We done Pontiac. We done stuff for Ford. We done stuff for Chevrolet. Just a good deal. Then John retired, and he went on to own Callis Cranks, another deal.
Oh, exactly.
But he's so brilliant. A lot of times we'd be talking, and I said, "You make my head hurt. Stop. Wait." I said, "Explain that to me. What are you talking about?" "Oh, okay." Then he'd calm down and do, you know. But I've been real lucky.
So I went to his shop in probably 1983. My dad, so I was like 11 years old back then. But I remember my dad going to the shop.
I remember.
And it's like, man, it's like, this is because I was like, "Where are we going?" We're going to the carburetor guy. I'm like, "Oh, who's this guy?" I said, "Well, this guy here local, he's really good at carburetors." Like, all right, because here we were, these guys in Mississippi trying to race against these pros in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure all your stuff is what we ran on our Bush car. Man, we the Bush car was wicked fast.
You probably don't know this. I'm gonna tell you where you and me and your dad met.
All right.
I had a 67 Camaro, 350 inches. We had a cross ram on with 2 carburetors, 4-speed, 456 gear, and we was racing. We'd race for $50, buddy. We were somebody. Your dad had a Hemi.
Yes.
2 4-barrel.
Yep.
4-speed car.
Yep.
And it was a place called Shoney's. Out behind Shoney's where we raced at. The police would leave us alone. Ran him for $100. I beat him.
That's
Anyway,
why he wasn't a drag racer.
yeah, that's right. Anyway, I got off the start line and he didn't. Of course, he had more power, but we become friends at that point. And then he raced some cars out at the racetrack there at Clinton.
Yep, exactly. Jackson
And
International.
he done well. He was a world champion go-kart racer.
Yep. Only American ever win it.
Everywhere he went, he was good. So then when he decided to go to the NASCAR deal, he called me up and said, "This is what I'm fixing to do. Will you help me?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do anything you want to do." So we built his carburetors, and I think he run our stuff until he quit. Yeah. We didn't like to do race car NASCAR stuff. We like to do qualifying. Because qualifying is closer to my heart. I love drag racing. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name that did Earnhardt's qualifying stuff. Lanny
Barnes?
Barnes, I believe it was Lanny Barnes.
Yeah.
And so we done qualifying stuff for him for Earnhardt. And then I think Petty was Pontiac. Wasn't he Pontiac?
Yeah, he was,
And he was John Callis's big buddy.
Yeah.
So John got me to go with them one time. And I'm going to tell you a good story on Petty. We went testing, and we was at Talladega. And Petty's engines was built by Maurice, his brother then. We had a new carburetor on there. They went out and made laps, come in. Petty said, "The motor ain't no good." And he said, "Well, I need to check. Let me check the valve. Couldn't use that plugs." Petty said, "No, it ain't no good. No, I won't do that." Run through the valves, checked that, put some plugs in, went out there. Petty come in. Motor ain't no good. Well, they were brothers.
Yeah.
So you know how brothers, they feud sometimes. So they talked and one thing and the other, and they yelled a little bit. They made a change or something. Petty went out and run again. He come back in. He said, "I'm telling you, the motor ain't no good. I ain't running it no more." So his brother looked at him, and we all standing around there. And he lifted the hood, laid the hood back, reached in there, cranked the car, and he was this tall, and his arms was this long.
Yep.
So he reaches in there and he cranked the car up. He got out over here side the hood, grabbed the throttle. Boom! Kicked 2 rods out the side of the pan. He said, "Okay, I agree. It ain't no good no more."
What?
Yeah. I mean, kicked him right out the side of the pan. He just yanked it wide open and let it run. And yeah, that was the funniest thing. Scared the hell out of me. But Petty was really a good guy. He had a big heart. Earnhardt had a big heart.
Yeah.
Earnhardt done a lot of stuff for people. One time I was going up there to test, and we went. As a matter of fact, Earnhardt picked me up at the airport. So we went to the local place where the locals eat. There's no church right there, a dirt parking lot. We went and ate. We come out, the black minister was out there sweeping the dirt, the grass. And Earnhardt said, "Let me go see what he's doing." Earnhardt got out, went up there and talked to him. Come back, said, "Yes, and they're going to help him with a bunch of fundraisers and pave that parking lot." So went on. About 2 or 3 months, come back, and another guy, I think maybe Lanny may have picked me up, and the parking lot was paved. I said, "Dang, they must have got busy and made some money." He said, "No, Earnhardt paid for that." He said, "He won't let nobody know, though. Nobody knows."
Yeah. Typical Dale. Yeah.
Wow.
But he just done stuff like that all the time. Really good
We're
guy.
getting Earnhardt stories now here on Hidden Horsepower. That's right, folks. So you need to subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But Gary, carburetors in terms of the evolution of that one little unit that is the key to so much. Like Lake can't do his thing unless you do your thing first. You got to get that air fuel mixture. And it's, I don't know, I've heard like dark science, black magic, what makes a good carburetor?
Well, I ain't gonna tell you that. But I'll tell you no.
I tried, Lake.
Yeah.
I tried. I positioned it.
Hartford says it's the smartest thing on the engine.
Yes. The difference in a carburetor and fuel injection. Now, if Butterflies is the same. Airflow is the same. I'll make more power than fuel injection. Done it. Back 100 years ago, there was a guy, I'm trying to think of what his name was. Best fuel injection guy ever. Best fuel injection guy now. He made a DFI, digital fuel injection. You ever, who makes a yellow spark plug?
Excel.
Excel.
Yeah.
They bought it from him.
Oh, that was that Evars or one of those guys from Comp, right? One of those guys from Comp did that, wasn't he?
It was.
I'm thinking of Hypertech. One of those guys from
No,
Comp did that deal.
I think I'm old. I can't remember everything. I remember what I want to. My wife says I got selective memory. But we made throttle bodies for him back in the 80s, and he was making fuel injection. At that time, we cut carburetors in half and made throttle bodies for the fuel injection, filled in all the holes and all that stuff. But fuel injection's been around a while. But the difference in the two is the carburetor, the motor signals the carburetor what it wants. Fuel injection is you tell the motor what it wants. And sometimes you're good and sometimes you ain't.
Right.
But, and you know, back in them days, we had no CNC machines. We had no CAD, 3D CAD. We had nothing but a Bridgeport mill. If you was lucky, you had a flow bench. And I was lucky enough, I had an old man that raced for Porsche, and he had a wet flow bench. And I bought it since the 80s, I've had a wet flow bench. And I borrowed his bench. A wet bench tells you really what the carburetor is seeing and what the motor is seeing.
Right.
A dry bench is a different world.
Because the fuel has mass, more mass than the air.
That's right.
So the air can hang a corner, the fuel can.
Yeah. And spacers, that's a good magic place.
Talk about that, because that's always been a thing, right? Open or four-hole, tapered.
And see, I'm gonna do probably a two. And maybe you could come and we'll lay spacers out, and we'll go through a whole deal on spacers, the technology, the theory, everything about it. And we've made every kind of spacer. You ever look at the bottom of the carburetor and it's dirty?
Yeah.
That's reversions.
Yeah.
We'll take everybody in here and probably won't be 10 people knows what a reversion is. A reversion is when the combustion chamber fires, it creates exhaust, which is dirty air. The exhaust valve closes before you can get all the exhaust out. Then it's under a little bit of pressure. When the intake valve opens, it shoots it back up the runner. Well, that's the dirty you see on the carburetor. Now, a carburetor is made to do this. When the reversion hits it, it's doing this. That booster is jumping. Reversions will only hurt you in mile an hour. It won't hurt you in ET. So we made some stuff with Glidden one time that we didn't know nothing. I told him his motor was using oil. He said, "Why do you think that?" I said, "Because the bottom of the carburetor is dirty." Yeah. And he's the one that told me what reversions really are. And good head guys and good cam guys has done a whole lot to help get those reversions out of the car. That's why you see some of these cars running so much mile an hour. They clean up there, but they're never stop it. It's impossible to stop.
You got overlap.
That's right.
You got overlap, and having that exhaust open a little bit before the intake deal lets you have that signal, so it
that much. That much.
Just it helps it get it started.
You know when Glidden flipped his car 6 times, jumped out and throwed his coat over the carburetors?
Iconic moment in drag racing. Bob Glidden gets out of a wicked crash, and the first thing that he thinks to do is cover something.
And how do I put this? Bluntly, maybe?
Sure.
Okay. I got permission now.
Yeah, Blake says it's okay. So
the tech guys at NHRA didn't really like Glidden so much, but they liked Warren Johnson a lot. Well, in Glidden's mind, tech was going to be there looking. If them carburetors tore off and there was them plates, he knew who was going to see it. And the next week, the first carburetors ever split, we did them for Glidden. And then it worked well. And then the next step was to put 8 1-barrels on it. So we took the Dominator, cut it in half.
Yeah.
He's running 4 2s, runs good. He set a bunch of records with it. We took another set, cut them in 2, and then we cut them again. And we made 8 1-barrels. Well, we put the 8 1-barrels over cylinders, and that was one of them days I was really dumb. They didn't do so good. But NHRA got to sniff that Glidden was working on 8 1-barrels, and they sent him a message real quick.
Nope, cut that out.
Yeah, can't do it.
Why? What's wrong with 8 1-barrels?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the end of the world.
And
That cat and mouse back then was kind of the fun part of the game, right?
Yeah.
So Gary, you're talking about split dominators. That was a big deal, right?
Big move.
That was a big move.
See, the manifold was this way. The runners were here, and so getting them out over the runners.
You guys were the first to do that?
Yeah.
That's big. The guy who split the Dominator right here.
Yeah.
It's not quite splitting the atom.
Yeah.
But it's splitting the Dominator. Where'd you come with that?
Hey,
Tell me about that idea though. Like, hey, let's cut this thing in
I
half.
split the atom when I done the 1-barrel, and it showed me I didn't know nothing about an atom.
But you decided, hey man, we got to get the fuel over there, so let's just cut the carburetor in half.
That's right.
Obviously, Bob was open to trying whatever, right?
Anything. 2 people that give me an open window. That was Bob Glidden and Waddell Wilson.
Okay, yeah.
Waddell Wilson.
Waddell, yeah.
We done stuff for him. He didn't care if I sent him an ice cream cone with a cherry on top of it, told him to put it on the top.
He would done it.
It was going on top. I'll tell you a good story about him.
I love
We go
Waddell.
NASCAR a little bit.
Yeah.
We were testing, and I forget where we was testing at, but I'd get there early, and the car would be up on the stand. I'd like to get under them on the creeper and just look, because all that stuff just amazed me. Flat pipes and all that stuff, where it just amazed. And of course, that was early on when stuff wasn't like it is now. And I was under there, and my feet was hanging out, and I was just looking at all that stuff. He come by, Waddell, come back, kicked me on the foot. Well, I knew who it was. I seen his shoe. I knew what his shoe looked like. And he said, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "What's the rule on an oil pan?" He said, "What are you thinking?" Buddy, he come out the other side. He come out there on the creek. "What are you thinking about?" I said, "Well, won't a belly pan make one of these cars run faster?" He said, "Well, yeah, but we can't run belly pans." I said, "What's the rule book say about an oil pan?" He said, "Ain't no rule." He looked at me and he said,
Gotcha.
He went back out, got his tape measure, got his pencil and rolled back on there, and he said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "I think if you put a false bottom on this oil pan and fill all this under here, it'll be a belly pan." He did.
There you go.
He called them. I had them old box phones back in, you know.
Yep.
He called the shop up and told them he wanted this pan, had this bottom, and I want it done today. I want it sent out overnight red, and I want it in the morning. Well, in the morning, they had to pan everything off. They put that thing on, got down. Cale Yarborough.
Yeah.
Cale Yarborough was driving. And I'll tell you something about Cale Yarborough a little bit too. Waddell Wilson had the oil pan back, put it on. Cale Yarborough went out and run 3 miles an hour faster than anybody.
Whoa.
Now that's big.
That is.
He come in the pit, we had a shed, come in the shop, they closed the door. First thing Waddell did, went out and started twisting on the wing. I'm just sitting there. I don't know nothing about all that stuff. Horsepower, that's me. But he just twisting on that wing, twisting on the wing. He wasn't that quick. Here come all them tech guys in. They come in looking all over the car. They went back there and one of them hollered, "Here it is, here it is." He went straight back there and jacked the wing up. He jacked the wing up so they'd pay all their attention to the back
exactly.
of the car.
That is the old way, right?
Yeah.
Make them think of this is the problem when hiding over here. Exactly.
They left the front of the car, went to the back. They made him set it all back and do it like it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And Waddell was standing there and Cale was standing there. And Waddell said, "Boy, 3 miles an hour good." He said, "No, we'll run 5. He said, "I was lifting all the way through the end of the lights." He said, "I was lifting." Belly pan. Anyway, he got to run it a couple of races. Then they went through tech one time and they caught the pan. But there wasn't nothing in the rule book. And then they said he couldn't do that. So that was
then they write a rule after that.
That's right. Sunday, Wednesday, everybody got a new rule book.
Yeah, exactly.
New rule book. But Cale Yarborough, I don't know that he could do anything on a car, but he could drive that car. He could come in and he could tell them everything that needed to be done to each corner of the car. Best I ever seen. I mean, he was cool. And them guys, let's say the Miller car, that was Davidson.
Bobby Allison.
Bobby Allison.
Yeah, Bobby Allison.
Now you think about this. Them guys go out there and run 500 laps, come in, jump out of the car, get a Miller beer and a cigarette.
Yeah.
And they interviewed him. Miller was his sponsor, and Winston was the sponsor, and them guys wasn't out of breath or nothing.
No.
Now and he'd lose 5 to 8 pounds of weight in the car in a race, and then your daddy come along, and if I ain't mistaken, he's the first one that ever had an air conditioning helmet. Had to check that and see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that was the beginning of an air conditioning helmet. Then they quit losing so much weight. But you get these guys now, they run a mile, they lift the weights, they drink the right drinks, eat the right food, and they give out when they get to a race. But there's something to be said for them old guys. No power steering. No power steering.
No.
Yeah.
Their upper body strength was just massive.
Yeah.
Dad just.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, that was good days. And another one that helped me a lot was Ricky Smith. Remember Ricky, Tricky Ricky?
Yeah.
Tricky Ricky.
I went with Tricky Ricky. Went with Ricky a lot. I'll tell y'all a trick I pulled. And Ricky will know about it after this. I ain't never told him. You know, back in those days, Pro Stock was big secret. And it was real secret. Manifolds were covered up, everything. And everybody, they were real careful about talking. When they'd talk, you know, they'd do this. So I learned how to read lips. Actually did. Learned how to read lips. Ricky and us was at Rockingham, I believe. He was running the big motor stuff. And who we was fixing to run was right here. And they were sitting right in front of the car and they were talking. I knew everything they were saying. I read them like them perfect. The guy told his driver, he said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to go in the light, bump the light on. Before Ricky can go, when he starts moving, I want you to back out." Rules wasn't then like they were today.
Okay.
He said, then soon as Ricky stopped, hit that light, as soon as he touched his light, and then turn it on. Wrong. Ricky Smith, you don't do him like that. So I told Ricky, I said, "Ricky, you know, I'm having a vision here." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I think they're going to try to hoodoo you on the light." He said, "Surely not me." I said, "Yeah, I think they are." I said, "Let me tell you what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to hit that light before you can get yours on, get out. Then when before you stop, then they're going to run in and turn it on. You get yours and they're going to turn you on. And they're going to be set to go." Ricky said, they ain't doing that to me." Exactly what they did. But Ricky was ready for him. He went on and turned his light on. Then that guy had to come back and get his on, and Ricky turned his on. That guy red lighted on the tree. And that was for the finals for something. Come back, Ricky said, I won't say everything he said. Yeah. But he said, "How'd you know that?" I said, "I don't know, I just felt it." But I never told him till now. And he's asked a number of times, "How'd you know that?" How'd you know? But Ricky Smith, he was an amazing driver. He really was. He could drive in sand, mud, dirt, dust. We went somewhere one time and he done match races. That's how he made his money. He couldn't race, we do match races.
Okay.
We do a match race on 2 out of 3 on Wednesday night. We go somewhere and do a 2 out of 3 on Friday night. Then he'd race on Saturday night. So he'd do that. And some of these tracks have sand on them. And you can imagine big mountain motors and trying to get out on the racetrack.
I can't imagine.
So I heard him, he left, and his car went, woo, woo, woo. Then he went. Come back, and I told him, I said, "The clutch is slipping." No, that was my foot. I said, "What do you mean your foot?" He said, "I sliding the clutch. Till I felt it bite, then I went." Now, who can do that?
Yeah, it's craziness.
Who can do that?
On a mountain motor.
Mountain motor.
Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, he was. There's a bunch of them guys. So many of them guys that I ain't never told them how much I appreciate them letting me go with them. But I like to lost a wife and a family racing.
Oh yeah.
Because I raced. I mean, I was eating it up and still eat up with it. But I'm 77 now, and I mean, we're steady doing new stuff. We got new stuff right now that none of these guys they never thought of.
Well, I would think for you, with all the change in fuel over time, right? You were talking about earlier about carburetor development and stuff, and I can't think that in the old days there weren't a lot of exotic fuels. But then Steve Burns from VP comes along, and all of a sudden now there's all these choices. That has to be another one of those levers or things you got to change,
And fuels. Of course, I had good guys telling me about what fuel. VP has helped me a lot. Renegade's helped me a lot. But the weight of a fuel determines on how it's going to burn, as far as flame travel and all that. And then the compression is over here dictating that.
Yep.
So when you get a bunch of compression, you got a fuel that ain't got no flame travel, you're in trouble. So over the years, I've learned what compression, what dome, what fuel. And it ain't necessarily a certain fuel that the fuel company tells you got to use, because they don't know what piston dome you got.
Right.
Because you got to try to, the most power is made with the flame going all the way over the dome and burning on the other side.
Yep.
And that's some of these guys have learned that.
And that's all dictated by the speed of the flame, and then the distance. The bigger the bore, the faster the fuel's got to burn to be able to make it all the way over.
Yeah, I have people call all the time. My car is running good, but it's not consistent. I say, okay, well, what compression, what CC is the dome, and all that. And I'm running aviation gas.
Oh, there's your problem.
There it is.
Yeah.
Aviation fuel burns so slow because it's got to burn way up yonder.
Right.
And it's just got to burn real slow, so it don't burn itself up and run out and lean the motor out and get them off the aviation fuel. They're saving money, and they got a buddy that works at the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's okay, but
gas.
if it's defeating your problem,
or causing a problem,
you're
trying to be consistent in your bracket racing.
That's right.
You better get a fuel that's consistent.
But all this stuff, like y'all, I mean, y'all have been able to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
On these rings, I mean, you just done some stuff for us for street race, grudge race, 200 horsepower, all of those, and no nitrous, no nothing like it. It's all normal aspirated. But that ring with the groove in the top.
Yep. The gas-ported ring is.
That's a badass ring.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a badass ring. But yeah, I'm just real lucky. I believe in God, and I believe in whiskey, and I believe in guns. So that's about as good as you can get.
That makes you a good engine guy. They all have that in common.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen everything. I'd go to a place for some big guy, we'd be dynoing, and they'd be making headers. Well, I'm just doing what I'm doing, but I'm looking all the time. I want to know what they're doing.
Yes, sir.
I seen a guy one time build a square header.
Yep, me too.
You too.
I've seen it.
And it made tons of horsepower.
Yeah.
But they're so expensive, nobody don't want to take the time to do it.
They're also really heavy too.
They're really heavy.
Really heavy.
A square, and that square.
Yep.
This guy got to talking to him later. He said, "I want to know something about carburetors." I said, "Good. I want to know something about square headers." So we swapped a couple of secrets, and all that stuff. You just seeing stuff going on around you. And Rear Morrison, David Rear and I have been buddies for God, I don't know how long. We done stuff for him back in Pro Stock days, and he's over there still as good a motor as they are anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not advertising for him. I would, but let me tell you what he did. He called me one time and said, "I'm doing this new motor. It's a 632X motor."
Okay.
And he said, I want you to get me a real good Dominator type carburetor. I said, we'll do the X deal. We'll do probably 1,420 CFM wet. Wet numbers are true numbers.
Right.
And you take a wet number is 1,400. If you do so on a flow bench, it's probably going to be 15 or 1550. Right. So anyway, what he did is he took a block. Years ago, he come up with offsetting the rock arm,
Right.
because he wanted a straight runner.
Yep. Right.
Because he thought the straight runner made more power, and back then it did. So now he's thinking the rock arm push rod needs to be all straight down to the lifter.
Yep.
Makes more power, less friction.
Yep.
And now the heads, the runners, are so good. So he went back, and wherever the valve was, he put a lifter right there.
Yep.
Got one lifter back there where the distributor would be. He done that. We made him a car, 1 4 barrel. First pull on it made 1,320 horsepower.
Wow. How much?
1,320.
Wow.
632. And this is a nitrous motor.
Okay.
So he turned around and made another motor, and we put 2 4s on it, made 1,360. And that's a badass.
That's a piece.
632.
Yeah.
But he's on to something there. He's going through a little 6-spell right now, but he's going to recover. He's going to be fine. But you take people like him, Musey, Fulton, he was over here just a while ago, visiting. You take them old guys, they just good.
Yeah.
I mean, they started off with stuff when they had nothing. But it's been a good journey for me.
That's awesome.
Good journey.
Well, Gary, it has been amazing. Is there anything we didn't ask you about? Like, we could have talked about his business a little more.
Well, we
But
could have
you
gone
start
on for a
dropping
while,
Earnhardt
yeah.
stories and all that.
I think we got Glidden.
Yep.
We got Scooter.
Yep.
We got Waddell. We
Yep.
got Earnhardt. We got Cale Yarborough. We got Richard Petty.
John Callies.
John Callies. Ricky Smith.
Yeah, Ricky Smith.
Like boom, boom, boom,
Oh,
boom,
yeah.
boom. I'm
David Rare. Yeah, we kind of covered pretty much the Hall of Fame.
right.
That's good as it gets.
Yes, sir.
And
That's good.
Gary Williams. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you very
I
much
appreciate
for
it.
joining us.
Appreciate y'all doing it.
Hidden Horsepower, PRI, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Click subscribe. It doesn't get better than this.